I want to talk about some of the parallels between the 2020 Democratic primary and the 2016 Democratic primary, which are almost mirror images in a sense, except we had more candidates splitting the vote this time around until closer to the end of the primary process. And I hope that this is instructive to us. What are the sort of recipe adjustments that we should be looking at is an open question that we have to think about. But take a look at this. Back in 2016, you had Hillary Clinton in the lead as the presumptive frontrunner basically from day one. She's the purple line on the chart that we're looking at. In comes Bernie Sanders, and slowly but surely he starts chipping away at her support, the brown line on the chart that we're showing our video audience. And Bernie starts closing in on Hillary Clinton. And then it becomes almost a tie. And then the entire thing reverses. Hillary Clinton rebuilds her lead, sails into the nomination despite months of, well, Bernie could still catch up if he grabs this state. Bernie could still catch up if he grabs that state or whatever. That was 2016. Let's now look at the 2020 chart. More candidates, a much more colorful chart, but we have another very similar situation. Biden enters and immediately spikes to 44%. Bernie drops to below 15. But then the debates start. The campaigns get going, and slowly but surely, Biden's green line of support here starts to descend. It starts to trickle off, while Bernie's blue line starts to climb. And this time, it actually passed Biden compared to only equating Hillary back in 2016. Bernie actually builds a national lead. And then in this case, in the last 6 to 7 days, essentially, it reverses. Bernie drops, Biden passes him. And my prediction is that this will become a bigger and bigger lead for Joe Biden nationally. So why does this happen? Why did it happen almost the exact same way both times? Different candidates, different number of people running, different timeline in terms of when it happened. It's very easy to say the DNC establishment did it. And we talked about this a little bit earlier today. Obviously, the DNC establishment has a big role to play. Why do you think the day before Super Tuesday, Amy drops out and endorses Biden? 2 days before, Pete drops out and endorses Biden. Beto O'Rourke comes out of the woodwork and endorses Biden. Obviously, the DNC establishment knows if all these people stay in, Bernie likely ends up with a plurality, although not a majority. If these people get out and support Biden, Biden likely ends up with the delegate lead, which he has now by more than 60 delegates, and in all likelihood sails to the nomination. That's all true. But if that's as far as our analysis goes, we are going to continue to see moderates nominated. And there is more to it, and we've been talking about it. Bernie was counting on younger voters. They were MIA. They were missing. They didn't show up on Tuesday. Biden's older voters showed up. The progressive left always counts on these young voters, and they rarely show up. So is that a viable strategy? I would argue the answer is no, as shown by the evidence. Number two, I already mentioned it. When you are enmeshed in online culture that includes Twitter and Reddit and YouTube, and as soon as you say, hey, you know, I'm a little, just a tiny bit worried about exactly how Medicare for All will be implemented, and you get shouted down the way I've been many times, despite being a Bernie supporter and a supporter of Medicare for All, you start to become disconnected from the reality on the ground. There are a ton of Democratic primary voters who don't like Bernie. They're not interested in the total package. They'd support Medicare for All under a number of circumstances. They'd support free college. They believe Amazon should be paying some taxes rather than zero, but they don't want to vote for Bernie. They don't like the dynamic that was formed along a lot of these black-white lines. And by that, I don't mean racially. I mean the sort of either you're with us or against us. We are against not only the Republican establishment, but also the Democratic, the people that surround him, the self-description as a Democratic socialist. And it can be very deceptive to spend too much time only in the online echo chambers. We often hear, hey, socialism is more popular than ever. 30% see it favorably, 35, 40% see it favorably. That's still not the majority. This stuff matters. And there's lots of people floating around on Twitter blaming only the Democratic establishment and corporate media and all of this stuff. In the same way that black voters don't support the Democratic Party because they're stupid, right? The right loves to say black voters aren't even think they're just brainwashed by Democrats. No, that's not true. That's an completely incorrect and discriminatory thing that the right says about black voters supporting the Democratic Party. People also aren't voting for candidates other than Bernie because they are stupid. They just don't want to vote for Bernie, and they're actively making that decision. They like the ideas in many cases, but they don't like the total package. And if we don't recognize that, we're just going to keep losing, right? We don't have to be in this position every primary of being like, well, all right, now we're losing. If we can just pull out Florida with 55%, we need to repackage the ideas. And I don't know who the right candidate is, but unless we zoom out and say not who does Twitter like, or who does Reddit like, or how big was the rally crowd, the question has to be inclusive of who would Democrats in northern Florida vote for? Unless we do that and answer those questions, the same outcome is going to repeat itself. Continue following this story on our Instagram page at David Pakman Show. While you're there, follow me on Instagram at david.pakman. If you ever feel like you just don't have enough time to read all the books you want to read, you have to check out one of my favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist takes thousands of popular nonfiction books and distills each one down into an ebook or audiobook that you can get through in just 15 minutes, where you're getting all the key takeaways from the book. Just imagine how you'll be able to expand your horizons and knowledge by being able to soak up all of the important insights from 10 different books in an afternoon. Obviously, it's perfect for exposing yourself to a new book you otherwise wouldn't have time for, or you can use it to revisit a book you've already read, or use it to preview a book before you buy the full version and read it. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.